Welcome. It's the Brian and Kendra Show, and we are here to spread statistics and numbers and valuable insights and predictions today.
Right. So normally we talk about practical tips and valuable insights in real estate, but today we wanted to be very specific and really talk about the interest rate because it has been such a hot topic. This is the first show of the whole new year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
This is January 4th, so this is Happy 4th Day of the New Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something, but we have a guest. We have Doug
Really?
Haines.
Where?
Yeah, it's you.
Oh, it's me. Okay.
Yes, welcome. Doug Haines, Bank 7.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
Yeah. What is your title?
Regional president.
Regional president.
Right.
I forgot to look that up specifically. I had some ideas in my head, but I knew I didn't actually have like the true actual jargon. And
Right.
so sorry about that.
No problem.
Sometimes I don't get my jobs done.
Reminds me of The Office. I want to say something, but I can't remember that quote where they like the regional director to the director of the
Yeah.
region or something.
Assistant too.
Yes.
Right. I have a key. I can unlock the bank. Okay.
Good job.
yeah, right.
So yeah, okay, yeah. In
See, I
control.
told you we're not the one in charge. No, but one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on is because Brian has told me stories that he'd heard about your first home purchase in Woodward.
Right.
And it was so interesting to me. But in my mind, it was just kind of interesting until the interest rate changed again. And I thought, I think it's time for people to hear some real life stories.
Right.
One of the things, and this isn't specific to this, but when things busted in the 80s, Gary Whitcomb scared me to death one time. This is awesome. You grew up with Gary, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Gary had caught me before I was working with this company. We had both been into closing at Woodward County Abstract, and I think the market was kind of shifting a little bit. And he said, "Now I'll tell you what, I remember in the 80s when everything was booming and everything was selling, and then the next day there were 60 houses vacant on the market," or whatever his quote was. And I remember going, "Oh no, I'm in the wrong business."
Yeah.
Like I panicked. It scared me.
Yeah.
I remember going home and being like, "Okay, I've got to really focus and I've got to make sure I know what I'm doing and I've got to be ready for the worst case scenario." Like he scared me to death.
Right.
But then over the years, as I've worked with him, I realized it's the most valuable information is being told about those times before I was here and ready to work.
Right.
Before I was here in Woodward. I was here, y'all. I just wasn't here in Woodward. Certainly not working. So I think that that's so helpful. And I think that offers us the valuable insight above and beyond listening. I love the Brian Buffini stuff. And last week I sent Brian a little podcast and said, "You have to listen to this first part." It was so interesting to me. But to hear it locally from people that I know, that I respect, that I trust, and go, "Oh, that's true."
Yep.
That makes a huge difference in how I think and view what we are doing in real estate in Woodward.
Right.
So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
All right. So you were just telling us stories about your mom
Uh-huh.
before we started recording.
Right.
And I absolutely love this. Your mom is from the area too.
Yes. Right.
So tell us about why you're here. You started out here. You ended up here. Tell us.
Yeah, it's kind of of course, my family grew up over at Fargo. And my parents basically were dairymen. So we all, us three boys, grew up milking cows. So basically, like a lot of people back in that time, you developed a very hard and very good work ethic.
Right.
Okay, I
right.
mean, you worked hard. But as time, as we all grew up and as we kind of moved on and we started, the family kind of basically started diversifying a little bit and getting maybe away from the agriculture side of it, although we were still involved in it and are still
Right.
involved in it. But we kind of moved away from that and got into the energy side. We started a company and was very successful over our 20-year period. Worked all over the United States. So basically, I stayed gone for about 20 years. And I was back and forth, but I was really not.
Right.
I mean, I lived out of a suitcase.
Sure.
So, and then when all that basically ended, I kind of migrated back here because you always, most of the time you always return back to your roots. It's like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to raise your family?
Right.
And, and exploring a lot of the different areas of the country, you really, it's in my words, you develop a great appreciation for where you grew up at.
Agreed.
Especially in Northwest Oklahoma. So anyway, came back here, went to work, as the CFO and assistant city manager for the city of Woodward. Had a very good relationship there. It was a great job. Did that for, how long did I do that for? 14 years, I guess. And then got off in the banking world. Did not expect to do that. But I had a brother that was kept kind of coming back and throwing a little bait at me, and I said, no, family's too hard to work for. I don't want to go down that road anymore. And so anyway, we finally come to a mutual agreement, and I joined the bank back in 2016, and it's been great. I mean, it really has. I think what really helped me was being able to sit on both sides of the desk.
Yes.
Okay, I spent so many years out in the industry itself, and in agriculture, and the energy, and the government. So I was on that other side of the desk for a long time, and then coming back over and being on the banking side of it, it's a different side to sit on. There's no question about it. Okay,
I can only imagine.
And telling somebody no is not as easy as you think it is.
Oh, I would not think so.
But yet having that knowledge and being able to understand what they are requesting and what they're trying to get borrow the money
Right.
for, very, very helpful. So basically, it kind of brings me to where I'm at today.
I love that because we are always saying Woodward is such a great place to live, and so we love whenever we hear about people coming back home, and I love that you said the way that you said that we migrate back to our roots. I think was what you said,
Right.
And I kind of chuckle at that because I've seen it with my parents. So they moved us here, raised us here, and as soon as we were all on our own, they migrated back to Oklahoma City because that was their roots.
Right.
And they are exactly back where they loved, and oh yeah, I saw so and so, and I think that's cool.
Right.
I think this is probably I hope this is my landing place, though, because this does feel like my root.
Yeah.
Northwest Oklahoma is a special, special place.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a super cool story.
Good.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Bank 7, do you want to talk to us real quick about the mortgage side? I didn't tell you about this. I'm just going to throw this on out there.
No
Do you want to
problem.
tell us a little bit about because that's, real estate, obviously.
Sure, absolutely.
Tell us about your mortgage department.
Well, the mortgage department is, excuse me. Of course, you guys interviewed Connie Rowland, a few
Yes.
times, and
I think Connie Rowland kind of raised me in real estate.
Well, she
side.
kind of raised me too, because when I went to
Incredible.
work for the bank, I said, let's go do this. And she said, Doug, we cannot do it that way. Okay.
I can see it.
But no, what a champion she was.
Oh,
and,
man.
and she's really the one that got the mortgage department going with Bank 7. That was what they hired her for, and did such an outstanding job. And, basically, the mortgage world, it's, as you well know, you guys, work on that side of it and deal with a lot of different banks. Excuse me. But, that side of it is, it's really changed a lot.
It has.
It's really, it's almost getting any more to where that you don't have that person at each branch
Right.
like they used to always have, to where you can go in and I want to speak to somebody about a home loan. We still are able to do that, but yet it's just not, you don't find that at every bank that you go into anymore.
Right.
And you look at the migration of that side of it, and it's like, okay, go online, fill out this application, you'll get a call back. And then of course we've seen how that Rocket Mortgage and Quicken and all those, how there's so many people that are going out to that market because look, it's more accessible, I guess I should say, or maybe it's easier for them. They can do it at night after they get home.
Right.
It's just the way that the world is moving.
There's a convenience to it.
Well, sure there is, but there's also there's a certain amount of people that need to have that face to face.
Yes.
Connection, and they need somebody to kind of help guide them through what they want, because
Right.
there's so many different products. You may not know for sure. Okay, well, you don't fit this box. Maybe you'll fit this box over here.
Absolutely. And the education that comes from a local bank with a local mortgage lender, it's invaluable. I think what people don't understand is that they can do everything virtually,
Right.
they don't actually have to walk in the bank
Right.
to use Bank 7 as their
Right.
mortgage.
Right.
And I don't think that everyone quite understands that
Right.
Misty is kind of
Yeah, Misty Thompson, she's taken over on that side of it, and just man,
with the
she's doing
fire
great.
too. I mean,
Oh, my
she's like,
gosh.
I'm going to do this and it's going to be wonderful and
Yep.
I can't wait to learn more.
Yep.
And I stinking love it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's thrilling. When
Yeah.
you see somebody else with energy like that,
Yeah.
it builds back your energy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
And-
she's a bulldog now.
Oh,
She
she
just
is. I love it.
She's great.
But she can do the same thing that Rocket Mortgage or all those
Right.
other
Oh, yeah,
ones can
absolutely.
do. And
Yeah.
so I think that maybe sometimes our customers don't fully understand. They don't have to walk in. They can call. They can
Right.
do all the email. They can. It's so easy in today's world to do
It
things
is.
online.
It is very easy in today's world, and it's just like you said, whatever Rocket Mortgage has to offer, we can offer that just as
Right.
easy.
Right.
But it's just kind of getting everybody to understand that.
And even to a point, we've noticed a few not local lenders will choose the easiest route for their
Yeah.
Yes.
for them, not the customer.
Right.
To the detriment of the customer.
And so
Right.
we've noticed that, hey, I mean, they may qualify for 3 different loans, and this was just a little harder, but it's better for the customer.
Right.
We want to make sure. I mean, we always want what's best for the customer.
Yes.
And so we've seen that where they've directed them. Oh, here you go. And we're like, why did they send them there? And we'll
Yeah.
second guess it.
Right.
Sometimes get them to someone that'll look at it
Right.
different. But
Right.
that's one thing we have noticed. Some of those are down there. They're just like, hey, this is easier. I got my check faster.
Right.
Stick them in that loan and let's move on. And
Right.
so
Right.
that's one thing I like about being face to face, or even fill your application online. But you have, I mean, a real person.
Yep.
But just the locality of
Mm-hmm.
knowing if I get into a problem, I can walk into Misty
Right.
makes a huge customer, me can walk into Misty.
Right.
It's a big deal. And because we had a situation very recently and the lender wasn't too far remote actually. And whenever I was visiting with a customer and hearing some more and more of his concerns, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a horrible situation. And I said, I understand that that's your bank, but I wonder if maybe you should seek a different option. Oh, that's not even my bank.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so,
it's just where somebody told me to go.
Right. But
Yeah.
when I said, you have so many more options.
Right.
And he went, oh, I do?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh man. And that guy's going to close on Wednesday
Yeah.
with a solid, much better for him loan. And
Well,
with a lender who fought for him.
I don't deal in that world that much,
Right.
but I kind of stay somewhat in touch with it. And what I see is a lot of times that with our group, especially if a customer cannot basically qualify for this particular loan, because it's based on your income, it's based
Right.
on your credit scores. There's so many different factors.
Sure.
But just because it doesn't fit in this box doesn't mean that we can't. Okay, let's move over here.
Right.
What can we do over here on the other side? I mean, there was one that we did the other day, and I wasn't even aware that you could do it this way, but it was all done. They didn't qualify from their tax returns because they were self-employed.
Right?
And, you got to make your taxes work, so you're not
Yes.
paying a whole lot.
Yes.
So it knocked them out of being qualified, where you go back and you pick up their bank statements.
Right.
And
Exactly.
as long as you can verify that income, then, it opens up another door over here. So it's just like, just because it doesn't qualify over here doesn't mean
Right.
it doesn't qualify over here.
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And
It's
look,
important.
if somebody wants to get a loan, we're going to do everything in our power
Yes.
to get that loan for them.
Yes. We love it. All right. I think it is time to hear the story.
Uh-oh.
So I know it's your story,
What story is that?
the one about your first house on Woodward.
Oh, that one.
So I heard most of this was like this little. This is like it's like a legend almost the way that it was presented to me, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
So I want you to tell us about your first home purchase, your interest rate, how things happened, how they fell, how long it took to sell it. I want all the goods.
I want
I want you to scare some people.
Yeah, I want to jump in. You said something earlier about Gary Whitcomb, how everything just kind of everything was hunky dory one day, and the next day it was just
Right.
doom and gloom. The best example that I've always you see a lot of people that live back through that 80s where it was just got disastrous. It was like everything was fine one day, and then you walk in the room and you turn the light switch off.
Right.
That's exactly the way it was. It happened that
And
fast.
it's unimaginable. Like I was young then and wasn't here, and I
You
have
were
no
born?
idea.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, you're such a nice guy. That Doug's a charmer. Yeah, but I mean, young enough though that I had no idea what was going on in the world.
Right.
And we were in Southeast Oklahoma, which I think is a different country. So, but when Gary tells me stuff, I'm like, I cannot wrap my mind around it. Like, I really cannot. Even having, like, 2007, 2008, 2009 was crazy. Even seeing that from the real estate side, I cannot fathom the 80s. Not a
Well,
bit.
the interest rate started, the interest rate started creeping up in the 70s, and as we moved into the 80s, they really started ramping up even more. And of course, the energy sector was going crazy. I mean, just they're drilling everywhere they can drill. But going back to my my first home that I bought in Woodward was in 1981.
Okay.
All right, bought a little 3-bedroom, window unit, wall heaters.
Right.
It was not. It was down here on the lower end of the scale. Okay, and but my interest rate at that time was 17.5%.
Okay, so there I want to pause.
Okay.
Because this is the part that a year ago was whenever all of this really started. We saw the big changes, and we saw the interest rate, the current interest rate, rising from what had been the 2s and the 3s, and then the 4s, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
And it was like this sense of doom. And we were sitting at a kind of a roundtable discussion that was an accident, actually. Misty was there, and Kale was there, and Sealing State Bank and Great Plains Bank. There were quite a few of us that were there, and I said, "Okay, I want some information. I want to know." And when everybody started spouting off what their interest rates were with their first home loans, the people that were just within about a decade older than me, I just was shocked.
Yep.
And I was like, "This is good stuff. How do I get this out?" And I didn't really know the best way to share with people. I think perspective is so important. So
Right.
17.5%.
Right.
Incredible. My first was 8 something. Yours was
11.
I always say 12. I lie all the time about that. And it's not on purpose.
That's right.
It's completely an accident. 8
It
sounds
was like when I was 12.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. 17.5%.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. I mean, but that's everybody was paying it. It was
You had to
not
have a house
out of
to
the
live
norm.
in.
It was, if you want to buy a home, that's what your interest rates are going to be. And I had
Right.
good credit. I mean, there was nothing, that
Right.
caused me to have that high of an interest rate.
Right.
But if you go back, which I did here when the interest rates started creeping back up, but if you go back into the 50s and you look all the way through to today, and you look at the interest rates and you kind of use an average or do an average weighted through there, interest rates really, on an average, are probably between that 7.5 to 9.5%. So let's just say
Right.
8.5%. So we're not in a unnormal range.
Exactly.
It's really because that look how low that we left interest rates, and people got used to it.
Yes. Because
Okay.
it was beautiful
Well, it was nice.
for us, for the consumers.
Except that the rate of the homes went substantially up,
Yes.
and people were paying to 10, 20,
Right.
30,000 over,
Right.
which was I told people, it's like you were just prepaying the interest.
Right.
Right.
You're paying 7 or 8%
Right.
interest. You
Right.
just prepaid it up front.
Right.
When you
But-
sell your house, you don't get it back.
But on your side of the coin, that with those high interest rates, then what do you do to get people into a house? What's got to happen?
Either prices got to come down,
Yeah.
or they got to make more money, or
Right.
buy a smaller house.
Yeah. And what do you guys see? I mean,
Yes. Well, we see people. I'm starting to see people buy less of a house.
Smaller houses.
When the money was good, they were buying the biggest house they could afford.
Right.
I say people still buy the biggest house they can afford. I'll just put it that way. So it may not be a $500,000 house now, or a 400 or a 300. It's going to be, and then it's of course supply and demand. Well, if I'm going to buy a house in Woodward today for $250,000, there's like 2.
right.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, I called the head of our mortgage department this morning, and of course he was in Colorado skiing, so really felt sorry for him. But anyway, I said, "Hey, what are you seeing, especially in the metro areas?" And he
Right.
said, "What's happening in the metro areas is that the inventories when they've got these inventories," he said, they'll leave them in inventory for a little bit. They can't leave them very long. So he said, what you're saying is they're bringing those numbers down so they can get people into
Right.
the home, because the interest
Right.
rates are up. So they got to bring that price down so that they qualify. And it's like you say, they got to buy a smaller home or a less expensive home or something.
Right.
Yeah. And we're seeing it. So I watch Wichita quite a bit. My daughter's up there, and we just bought a house up there. And Tamara Provines, which used to be from Woodward, she did a market updates from up there. And it's, of course, it's completely different. Like Woodward and big cities are different. She said they're still 1,000 houses behind on their inventory. He said a year and a half ago they had 500 houses. Now they have 1,500 houses. But to be healthy, they need 2,500 houses.
Wow.
I'm like, this is crazy to be that far now. Woodward, I feel like 75 or 80 was our number.
I think so.
That every time we get to that number, it feels like, okay, now everybody
We feel like
has
we can breathe again.
Yeah, buyers have choices. Sellers,
Are still selling
okay. Everything's kind of working. It's fluid. When you get to 120, it's like, oh my gosh, please sell something.
Right.
And then when you get
Right.
down to the
We're
38 or the 40 now, we're like,
38
man,
to 45 lately, and
it's like, where do you buy?
man, it's a crunch. There's just not enough to choose from.
Yeah.
And people
Please
with
list
this,
your homes.
yeah, and then then it goes back to the price. With the price that is, people are just like, well, I'm just going to stay where I'm at instead of upgrade or move. And
Right.
That is the tricky part. I mean, my house at 2 and 2.75 or whatever my little house is, I don't ever want to sell it. I mean, right now it's a great little home for my son to rent from me, and
He pays you?
he does. I guess he's in charge of his account. No, yes, he does, but not market value, of course.
Right.
But I mean, really looking forward, whenever he's ready to go out and do his own thing, I'm never going to want to sell that house. Never.
Be hard
And
to.
it's not just sentimental anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, back to
Yeah,
back
so,
to
okay,
my
here
house
we
when
are,
I bought
yes.
it, and then I decided, or my family and I decided to move back out to the country, and of course the market was depressed. Couldn't get the house sold, so I thought, okay, this will be my rental house. I want to grow up to be like Brian over here.
know.
Have all these rental properties, and I did that about 4 years, I guess. And after the third person, I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't care if I take a loss on the house. I'm out. Wash my hands of it. Go on down the road. So that's what I did.
So did you take a loss?
I did.
I think that's the important thing too. I think it's really important for people to understand sometimes you just have to take the loss.
Yeah.
And does it ever hurt?
Well, sure.
And
it
we
does.
understand that. But I think we get in our mind sometimes that, like, as agents, when we're showing a seller, unfortunately, this is what your net is, and it's a negative net. And I can't bring money to the table. I'm not doing that. You did.
Yeah.
You are. I mean, we see it. I haven't sold enough houses. It will happen to me too.
Yeah, it will.
Like, it will. I get this. But to be able to explain that to a buyer and seller who think that, I think they really think that that's not us. We don't really have to see that.
Right.
Oh, but do we?
Yeah.
And I think that that's really helpful for people to see that perspective and to just know, unfortunately, sometimes it does happen that way. Not all the time. And if we can wait it out, maybe not.
Well, it's an investment, and we all do investments, and not all investments go like we want them to go. Okay, so there are some good ones and there are some really ugly ones. Okay,
Right.
So you just have to lick your wounds and go on down the road.
Yes.
But sometimes the pain of having to take money to closing versus the pain of having to fix your home every single time that a renter moves out.
Right.
Sometimes you're just picking which pain. And I would rather
Right.
maybe the check
That's
now than
that's
have
exactly
to do
right.
the checks this many
Yeah.
times before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important. So I thought that was, when I heard that story, I thought, I want people to see that,
Right.
that they're not alone in this, that it's been done before.
Right.
And by people that, I think sometimes we even think, oh, I must have really made a poor choice. And it feels like this wound and we got to keep that hidden. And it's not like that. It's just part of the business
Right.
world. And to see that from I don't want to give you a big head, but from a highly respected businessman, I think that helps for people to see, well, this is real life. It's just really real. So it's raw, but it's real.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and to your favor, I think, hopefully we are going to see a little softening on the rates. And
Yes.
we're already seeing it a little bit. You can get some rates under 7 now.
Yes.
So, the feds came out last week and said, we don't think we're going to be raising rates anymore, and hopefully we're going to bring them down a little bit. Of course, the mortgage world is priced off of the treasuries more than they off the Fed's rates. So, but I'm a little skeptical on how much they need to come down and how fast they need to bring them down, because
Right.
it's just like, it seems like that if you bring them down too much and too fast, then we're going to be right back in that same situation that we're in again. They're going to
Exactly.
have to pump them back up.
Things
Okay.
maybe need to be a
So
little
we should
more
play
organic.
a game.
Oh, we're going to play.
Oh, no.
What's your prediction for March?
On
Hang on, I'm going to write mine down.
Just
I
remember,
think-
the weathermen get it wrong and they still get to go back to work. You'll be
I'm
fine.
going to say my prediction for March is that we might be back. The Feds might be back down to 8.25. I don't see them coming off any more than 25 basis points.
Okay, so 8.25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm saying, well, I need to do it differently. I didn't do that. I'm saying we'll be seeing people getting mortgages in 6.75. I mean, we're already seeing that.
We're already seeing some of that. So, yes, I would agree
So
with that.
I agree with that. And then I
Yes.
think June, summer, will come down another quarter to a half.
It could be down around 6.5 or so, yeah.
There you go. Then I think it'll actually, I'm predicting it goes back up September, October.
That's,
Is next year an election year?
I think it hovers 6.5 to 7
yeah,
to the end of the year.
yeah.
I don't think we get to the 6.
It's a delicate balancing act. It really is. And, they can't just come way back off of it. I
No.
heard something today that, they'll be down 75 basis points by the middle of next year. I'm like, oh my gosh,
It will. Our houses, you'll see the metros back to that 20, 30,000 over asking price again.
Yeah.
Because everybody that was sitting on the sidelines waiting to move
Right.
will all bounce back in the market. And that's
Right.
what's going to drive our market.
Right.
Because we have a ton of people sitting on the sidelines that have relocated, divorce, death. They've got degrees, they've got kids, but they're just hunkered down.
Right.
When we let the pressure off of the interest rate, all those people move at
Right.
once.
Right.
I guarantee you, I think if we dropped a whole percent in just 90 days, we would run out of houses in Woodward.
One little comment, because I see we're getting close on the time, but one little comment was that if you was paying attention to all the statistics that come out after Black Friday and how the record spending was, but along with that was how many more people are living off of credit.
Oh,
Okay. And you talk about having a negative effect on when you're going to go get a home loan or
Yes.
mortgage loan. Bingo. Okay.
Yep.
Be very
Rent.
careful about that.
rent will go through the roof.
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
no
I
doubt.
agree. I agree.
Rent has got to go. We're going to see rent rates go up and up and up until they catch up with the interest rate.
Right.
So, well, it's good talking with you. I think there's a lot of wisdom here, and I think there's a lot of experience. And the biggest thing we want people to understand is this is part of the game, part of life. Interest is high. It will
Yep.
come back down.
Yep.
We know it will. We don't
then
know
they'll
how
go up
much.
again.
And then they'll go up again, and then they'll go down again. And so let's just help you make the best decision with the money and loans and the decisions you need to make in your life. We'll walk you through it. We'll walk with you
Right.
through it. So,
Absolutely. Bank 7 too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're there for you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
What's your website and what's your phone number?
Okay. Website is www.bank7.com. Office number here in Woodward is 580-254-0100.
All right. We appreciate it. I'm Brian Cook with Advanced Real Estate, 580-334-2303.
I'm Kendra Brown, 580-216-0090.
All right. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Welcome. It's the Brian Kendra Show, and we are here.